a judge come in and remove everything that had happened. It just shredded everything. Doesn't exist. So these things will happen too. I'm not special. The only reason I got these stories is because I go out and preach. And I know when I go out and preach, it's going to cause a reaction. A big reaction. I'm not going to fly from Los Angeles to Boston to give a tract to one guy. Or to pray for somebody. I can do that fine in L.A. I came to Boston to cause a stir. You know, when God pulls a guy like me out of the bullpen, there's going to be some problems in the city and they know it. When confronted by a police, and Bible college doesn't teach you, so I'm going to give you some tips. When confronted by the police, how you deal with that officer within 3 seconds is going to pivot what's going to happen. Right. Okay. Take your hands out of your pocket. You can tell most of the time I put my sunglasses over my forehead so they can see my eyes. I'm not twitching. Okay. Officers don't have what we call discernment. Academy teaches body language. And if they see you flinching, you just cause some alarm. If they see that you're nervous, they're going to find out more about you. So when they come and you deal with them, they really don't know what to do because they can sense you've got authority. Jesus met with a centurion. This is a centurion. He could have sent 20 soldiers to grab Jesus and bring him over. But he himself personally went there and beseeched Jesus. I know you're a man of authority just like I am. They understand the authority. The sad commentary is, over the years, I've been accused of being a government agent here in America. I've been accused of being law enforcement. I've been accused of all kinds of stuff. That's the last thing. The sad part about that is when you see a person that has authority, that speaks with authority, that walks with authority, you don't think Christian. You think law enforcement. Isn't that amazing that the church can't put that together? Law enforcement. No, the only reason I have favor with the police is because I've earned it. I've been cuffed so many times, I had my head slammed against squad cars. I hear what you say. You're not going to get a group hug from me. You want persecution, read Fox's Book of Martyrs. Read Martyrs' Mirror. That's the early church. And that's even going on in other parts of these countries here in the globe today. So it's not, just because you may not experience it, doesn't mean it's not happening. They do watch your body language. They do watch how you respond. If you twitch, if you're moving, if your sentence has a lot of, when he asks you, what are you doing here? You can't say, well, Jesus told me to come here. That's not going to work. That's not going to work in court. I'm here because of this. Usually the officer said you can't protest. You want to define you're not here to protest. Right. You're here to preach. You know, what do I have against this particular building? I have nothing to protest with. I'm here to exercise my religious freedom on the sidewalk. And so instantly try to remove that word protest from you. Oftentimes officers will tell you, you need to keep moving on the sidewalk. Don't stand still. And there's a code. Most cities have a code for this. But the code has everything to do with a union strike. It has nothing to do with your religious freedom. If you ever see a union strike, these guys are out there on the sidewalk with signs, and they don't want them to stop at the front door. Then they'll block people from going in. They don't want them to stop at the driveway. They'll block commerce. So the law is there, but it has nothing to do with what you and I do. And we need to understand this. When we deal with police, you need to know the law. And in New Orleans, I remember an officer came up and said, you know the code here in New Orleans, it's no amplification. And he's quoting it to me. So I'm letting the guy finish. And when he's done, I said, officer, to read down, the code has everything to say that religious groups are exempted from this. And he looked at it and he says, just keep the volume down. You need to give police a bone. Okay, don't think for 1 second you're going to discuss free speech with this guy. Unfortunately, the academy doesn't teach them free speech. A question that I normally get asked regarding free speech is, Brother Ruben, I get asked to show my ID. I know my constitutional right. Do I show my ID? We've debated this since the late 80s, so I'm very aware of the position people take on that. My advice to you is speed up the process. Give them your ID. If you have nothing to hide, give them the ID. Matter of fact, quite frankly, they probably know who you are anyway. They just know you may not give it up and you want to cuff you. The officer can clearly say, I am responding to a call, therefore I am investigating something, and because it's an investigation, I need to know who I'm talking to. He can drag you in, he can fingerprint you, he can keep you in jail for quite a bit of time. Usually when you're in jail, you're out within 6 to 8 hours if everything's fine. But they can hide you around, move you around. Again, you're dealing with, if you're a nuisance to a particular city, they're going to do that. Oftentimes when I am involved with police, I'll ask them, sir, would you like to see my ID? Just that statement alone, 85% of the time the officer looks at me and says, no thank you. So rather than him saying, I need to see your ID, I volunteer. And usually he's going to just say, no thank you, it's fine. They do know who we are anyway. So I would say, we don't have a problem. We're not there for the Bill of Rights. We're not there for constitutional reasons. We're there to promote Jesus Christ. And you're going to understand, you're going to be falsely accused of things your entire Christian life. They're going to accuse you of stuff, and even when they arrest you, it's going to be false charges. The way the police department works is they'll arrest you maybe against 3 charges, but tell you, if you plead guilty to this one, we'll drop the other 2. No, don't do that. Continue to fight. It's very common within many street preachers is to put a video of the arrest on YouTube or Facebook. You need to remove that instantly. You do not want to show the guy you're going to be most likely going to court over what you have. There's a discovery process. And during the discovery process, then he can know what you've got. Much like you don't have access to his camera around him, he shouldn't be able to see yours. Even if he asks for it. No thanks. If you choose to arrest me, you'll know in due time what I have. So if you do have a video, don't be so quick to put it on. Try to avoid it. And I know a lot of young street preachers, they love to do that. Hey, I just got arrested the first time. Just leave it. When an officer tells you, if you don't leave, I will be arrested, that's all he needs to say. Once that happens, you submit that to the footage to your attorney, and then we go to court. You walk away. You don't gripe, you don't complain, you walk away. It looks like you just ran away with your tail between the legs. Nothing's further from the truth. We were in Dearborn probably about 6, maybe 7 years ago, and that city is Muslim. That city, when we showed up, absolutely turned into a riot. And for an hour and a half, this is on video, they threw everything that is loose at us. I mean, these brothers that I was with, they got hit with stuff for an hour and a half. Not one of them threw anything back. Finally, one of the main officers in Dearborn walks up and he says, "Ruben, I got to tell you right now, if you don't leave, I will arrest you." So I need. My head's bleeding. Matter of fact, there's a photo that somebody took that I didn't even know at the time, but the cut on my forehead was in the shape of a cross, and it's bleeding. So I told the guys, pack it up, we're done. And of course, the crowd was just cheering. We took him to court. That case went to the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, when Trump was impeached, they said that what he said caused riotous words to happen, what took place during the Capitol. And he said, "You, Trump, caused this problem." Well, you know what Trump's high dollar attorney, what case they used? Our case in Dearborn, Michigan. Wow. Dearborn, Michigan has refused to host another Muslim event. And the only reason we got there was because the police arrested 4 guys for just passing out tracts. And when that came across my desk, I'm like, "You're going to arrest these guys for passing out tracts? You're going to resent this day. Now you brought us." And things are going to change a little bit. And it sure did. So, you don't have a lot of Muslims actually say, "We're going to shut down the whole thing." And it was because of us. We had to fight this thing over and over and over. If your case goes to court, it may take years. Okay? This is not an episode of Law and Order where you're going to be told guilty, not guilty, and walk away. It may take years. Are you going to be around for the long haul? That's something you need to consider. I'd like to talk a little bit about shifting gears. Usually when police come up to me, at least the brothers that I'm with in Los Angeles, we shift gears. You're not going to say you're a whore, you're all going to burn. You just added fuel to why this officer is checking you out. So what we do is we modify the message. Hey, you live in America. Why would you not believe in God? Instantly. So this officer is a little bit confused on the call that he's going and now what we're saying. You can't be stuck on one gear. You need to learn to shift gears, especially if you're dealing with law enforcement. Because all they're doing is responding to a call. And you need to know when to shift gears. You can always say what you say after they pack up and leave, or even if you didn't, it was already communicated to the people prior to them coming out to you. But you definitely want to learn how to shift gears. The police officer is not the evil centurion that's going to take you to the cross. He's simply doing his job. Some of them stretch it, some of them don't. So don't have a chip on your shoulder that these officers are nothing more than evil centurions that want to haul you away. Cities have been sued for free speech. They understand it, so now they handle you with kid gloves. I appreciate it when cops show up and you kind of have a meeting half a block away. They're trying to figure out what to do with you. I'd rather have that than come some cop show up and try to muscle his way and shut you down. When you see an officer using his cell phone, he's talking to somebody about what to do with you. Okay? He can't use the radio because if you use the radio in court, that's public. We need to see exactly what they're talking about. Versus his cell phone, we have no idea, and he can get away with all kinds of stuff. So when you see an officer with a cell phone, do understand they're trying to figure out a way to stop you. Gentlemen, we're always the visiting team. These same officers that I work with can be the same officers that will cover me tomorrow. They're not the evil centurion. When you are out preaching, your motive is to not be arrested. If the officer said leave, and you got it on video, that's plenty. But you don't want to get arrested. You get arrested, it's no longer a free speech case. It's a criminal matter. That has to be dealt with, and that may take some time before you get into the free speech area. So try to avoid the arrest. And all you want that officer to say is, I'm going to arrest you. You know, I mean, that's something you can ask. If I don't leave, officer, am I going to be cited or arrested? Yes. End the conversation, guys. Pack up, walk away. Go preach someplace else. We've got plenty of evidence that we can cause a lot of problems to that city. There are cities that we've sued, and we've had them take class on free speech. Street preachers. It's amazing what can happen. When I serve God, I expect to cause an issue for the Lord. I don't want to just go out there and just share Jesus with one or two people. I expect to cause a big commotion, and most of the time it does happen. When we were going to court in Salt Lake City, I had to come in for a particular hearing prior to the court. And so my attorney contacted me and said, Ruben, they'd like you to come into Utah on Wednesday. And my response was, I can't do it Wednesday. I can be there Friday, but not Wednesday. So he called him back. He calls me, and he says, no, they want to go Wednesday. It's not negotiable. Okay. So what I told my attorney to tell them is, I'll show up on Wednesday, and I'm going to stay in Salt Lake City till Friday, and tell them they know what I'm going to be doing. I got a call back from my attorney who says, Friday's fine. Imagine a guy with a sign on a public sidewalk in a city that has a couple million people, and you're considered a threat. A guy with a sign. When I landed at the airport, my attorney was there, along with the city attorney, a few other court people, and several officers. And so I asked my attorney, where are we going to have this meeting? You know, we going to your office, their office? He says, no, Ruben, they don't want you to leave the airport. So we have a room here at the airport, a lounge, which we're going to go ahead and conduct the meeting then, and then we'll put you back on the plane, and you're done. So, we finished the meeting, and the officer was by me the whole time to make sure I got on that plane. Guys, this is just for a guy that talks about Jesus Christ. I'm not bringing drugs in. We're not committing homicide out there. Just goes to show you that how much a threat you can be if you really don't quench the Holy Ghost. If you really get out there with some authority. Having footage is something that you need. That camera is not biased. That camera doesn't lie. That camera is not prejudiced. It gives you everything. And so you need to make sure your camera's going, everything is filmed, and when you actually go to court, they want to see the entire thing. Don't mess with it, don't chop it up, don't splice it, don't edit it, just submit it to your attorney, and in due time, it'll be brought up. Usually the cases are dropped. Okay? Of all the times I've been arrested, they get dropped. After a while, the city says, do we really want to pursue this? We were at a Mormon conference that we go twice a year in Salt Lake City, and I was in an area that they consider a no free speech zone. And the officers came up and they said, Ruben, do you realize you can't stand here? It's illegal. And it was brought up during the last session when we had a meeting. And my response to it getting brought up was, do we really want to take this guy to court? Do we really want to spend as much money as we can knowing we're going to lose the case? So we just simply decided, stay there. It's fine. Your reputation should precede you. I shouldn't have to contact the police and say, this is who I am, this is the court cases that we won. Your reputation should precede you. The book of Acts is filled with court cases. Paul used his Roman citizenship to argue his case. It's amazing. Christians understand that. They see this. But my question is again, do you know what it's like to sit in a jail cell for Jesus Christ? It's a blessing. And when you're in that cell, you're not thinking, I'm suing. When you're in that cell, you're not thinking, I hate these people. That evil, wicked police officer. Your motive should be, you should be rejoicing. That should be your motive. If you get arrested, here's the fine point. You may have to go to that state several times. So don't think it's over. I do understand what you're getting involved in. It's one thing to be arrested in your hometown. It's quite another to be arrested in Arizona. And so in Arizona, the police give us a lot of treatment. It's to the point now that several departments not only give us police, they give us parking too. They allow us to pull up with no license plate. Because they know after the event, we walk back to our car 2 blocks away, it's going to be a blow. So they will give us parking. And so you will be surprised what you can do if you continue. You got to keep hammering it. You got to keep doing it. And it may take 4 or 5 years and numerous arrests before they actually look at you and think, wow, this guy sincerely believes in what he believes.
That's right.
I'm going to share something that you may not, I'm sure you're very familiar with it, but I'm going to splice it in now. When you actually preach the way we do, and you meet mayors, the entire country kicks you out. You've got a little bit of a reputation. And sometimes, these people in the city actually have a great deal of respect for them. Don't ever forget that. They look at you like, we arrest this guy and he goes right back at it again. We arrest this guy and he goes right back at it again. This is what happens in Mark 6. Herod feared John, knowing he was a just man, and an holy, and observed him. And when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. Herod didn't have a chip on his shoulder. I'm going to kill that man. So if you think like to meet this individual. It's Bible. You know, and we don't find John saying, Jesus loves you. He addressed the sin in Herod's life. He lost his head not because he called the king an adulterer, but because of a bad bet. Jesus was in court. And the Bible says that Jesus saw, he was somebody in a different jurisdiction. He sent him over to Herod. Herod just happened to be in Jerusalem at that time. And the Bible says Pilate did not find fault in Jesus. Understand that. This is our Bible. If you think the entire world is against you, you don't know much Bible. He actually didn't want to do anything to Jesus in court. Even Pilate's wife had a vision, and she's telling her husband not to do what he did to this man. Bible teaches in Luke 23:8, and when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceedingly glad, for he was desirous to meet him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him, and he had hoped to see him and the miracles that he did. Not everything is just a drag-out fight, guys. There are people that are high-ranking. I can tell you stories. It'll get boring after a while. Who've heard about you, who'd like to meet you, and you've actually won them over. It takes persistence. Don't think 2 or 3 arrests and you're going to be, involved in the mayor's meetings. It may take years. But you see what Herod did. He was delighted. I've heard so much good stuff about you. He didn't say, I'm going to kill you. He was delighted. And they only say that because oftentimes when you go out and preach, you have this mentality that every police officer is out to get you. I think not. I'm letting you prove. I work with them. Not all of them are that bad. You got bad police like you got bad clergy. You got bad police like you got bad politicians. They're not all the same. Really, an officer is not going to put his entire career on the line for you. I know in your world you think that's going to happen, but he's not going to do that. He worked very hard to get where he's at, and the last thing he wanted to do is lose a career because of you. Herod had no hostility. There was no bitterness against Jesus. He longed to see Jesus. Preaching in the city is a little bit different than preaching on a college campus. And a college campus, they have campus police, but they don't have a campus jail. I know, I've sat in there, it's more like the principal's office. But when you preach at a city, you're talking a city of millions of people. Well, you must have made an impact. You know, when they say, Brother David's coming over to our town, we better assist him so his free speech doesn't get hindered. Not everything is a drag-out fight, people. But how you handle the police will speak volumes of what you can do for the Lord. There's a verse in the Bible that says, makes even his enemies live at peace with him. So, maybe the guy who actually was your enemy and had you arrested might be your best friend. Never underestimate what God can do. There are officers that, after a while, we tend to become very good friends over the years. When they bought Main Street, the Mormons, one of the main detectives came out and he said, Ruben, you heard they did buy Main Street. And he showed you what that really means. It's like Jesse causing such a stir at a campus that several professors decided to get together and spend billions of dollars to buy the campus and let him know it's now a private campus. That's what the Mormons did when they bought Main Street. And this detective walks over to me and he says, you know they bought Main Street, Ruben? I will arrest you. He says, I handpicked the officers if you tell me how many are going to be with you. And he says, here's the way it's going to go down. I'm going to warn you twice, and then I cuff you. And he says, because I know who you are, I'm going to cuff you in the front. He said, see these officers behind me? They've been waiting to cuff you. They want to slit your wrist. And so I volunteered at a meeting knowing you guys were going to go there. And I remember telling Detective Jay, they bought it. There's not much I can do. It belongs to them. And he's telling me, are you sure? I said, I've never lied to you. They own it. They bought it. I can go elsewhere and preach around the town. And this is the kind of favor you have with some police departments. He would rather have you arrested. There was an officer one time in New Orleans, and we were staying at a church off of Bourbon Street, and we came in to get a little coffee, go to the bathroom, my phone rings, and it's this officer from New Orleans. And he says, Ruben, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you. Can you tell me where you're at? Are you in the quarter? And I said, yes. So I told him where I was at. He says, I'll be here in 5 minutes. So I remember walking up to the pulpit and telling all the street preachers that are sitting down, look, I may be going to jail. I have no idea what this guy wants, but I may be getting arrested. So continue on what we're doing. Hit the streets. I gave another brother one of the keys to the church. And this officer showed up. This officer was asking a lot of questions in no particular manner. And he kept asking questions, and one of the questions he asked me was, how many cells do you have, Ruben? And I'm thinking, you mean like battery cells? I didn't know he was kind of referring to us like Muslims having cells. And I said, you mean chapters? How many chapters of Bible believers? And he says, yeah. And I said, we got about 80. At that time, we had about 75, 80. And he says, okay. His job was to watch over us. Or take note of what it is that we did. He wouldn't go home until we went home. Usually we didn't go home until about 1 o'clock in the morning. So he stayed there the whole duration. New Orleans came up with a law. At night, on Bourbon Street, it is illegal to mention the word Jesus and talk politics. In America! In America! Well, at their briefing, of course, my name was brought up. You know the guy's going to get arrested. And so they asked this one detective who's been working with me for about 1.5 years, you'll be cuffing Ruben. And he says, I ain't touching that man. He says, you have no idea what they go through on the streets. Right. And he says, I'm not touching him. So because of that, they moved him to another precinct and didn't really appreciate that. We were arrested. We had to come up with $9,000 to get the guys out of jail. We fought the case, we overturned it, and we got the money back. Amen. But what a law in America! At night, you can't talk about Jesus Christ. I have a stash of business cards from officers all over this country. Police that they give me the card and said, hey, can you do me a favor next time you come in? Can you let me know when you're coming? And we'll take care of it. It's card after this is just a small sample of what I have in my office.
It's still going.
So, I say that, guys, because there's one particular card that is very dear to me. It's this one here. And this one comes from a Secret Service agent. We were in New Orleans, I believe it was Super Bowl, and one of the brothers that was with us, his brother is a big chef there in New Orleans. And his brother told Willie, do you know that 5 sitting presidents are coming into town? They asked me to cook for them. Well, that's some pretty good information I got. I know what to do at this point. I'll take it from here. So we got the address and we showed up. This thing was in a warehouse area. This does not look like 5 presidents are going to be coming by in that building. And we sat there, we double, triple checked the address, and my decision was, let's just wait it out and see what happens. About an hour after the sit down, about 6 officers come out of the building. You can tell these boys mean business, they're not your regular street car. All in trench coats, and the guy that was leading was this Secret Service. And he walks right up to me and he says, so what's your intention? And I said, well, we know the presidents are here, and we wanted to give them a message. They did put their hand in the Bible. And he says, yes, we do have a free speech section over here for you. And I said, you didn't even know we were coming. There was no free speech section. He looked at me, we kind of giggled a little bit, and he says, can I ask you how you believe that 5 presidents are coming in? And I said, I got yours around. Left it at that. The guy says, you're right. In fact, we'll be rolling in about 20 minutes, each level at a time. And I said, well, if you want to know who we are, he says, I don't need to know who you are. As a matter of fact, one of the detectives from New Orleans actually said, Ruben, shouldn't you be on Bourbon Street? This guy said he flew in with the president. He flew in with the president, and he heard that we were there, and he knew me by name. Hey, you're dealing with the government. And so, I told the guy, I said, we have no harm for the presidents. We just want to remind them they didn't put their hand in the Bible. And he actually said, okay, that's all I need to know. And as the man turned around to walk away, he turned back towards me. I didn't give any identification. I didn't tell him who I was. And he says, hey, by the way, Ruben, after you finish the Super Bowl, I know you're going to Salt Lake City for the Olympics. He was right. And he says, here's my card. And he says, I'm putting my cell phone on the back of this car. And if you get a problem, please give me a call. The guy was in favor. He's our government, and he's in favor of what it is that we do. So because you have a run-in with the police officer, don't think the apocalypse has officially started. Work with the police the best you can. And this is a picture right here of Salt Lake City, and it's the homo parade. That individual that I'm talking is the chief of police. He's walking the route. He leaves the route to make a beeline right to me, to shake my hand and say, is everything okay? Here's a guy that we took to court numerous times. Your enemy can be your friend. And he told me, he says, Ruben, know right now. I'm here because I'm told to be here. That's why I'm the first one, so I can leave. So that may look like a regular picture, but that's the chief of police in Salt Lake City. Thank you for your time.
Hey guys, we're going to take about we had a schedule. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. So go ahead and go to the bathroom, stretch your legs.